session. Colleagues, before we start, let me just ask us to observe just a few moments of silence or moment of silence as a sign of prayer. Thank you. Thank you so much. Colleagues, welcome. I think I see familiar faces today, and I am so happy. Welcome to this session of today, convened by the MEC for Education, and I hope that we will be able to deliver on his expectation in terms of why we called this media briefing today. As short introductions, colleagues, let me introduce to you the senior leadership of the department that is seated here with us today. On my left, immediate left, we have acting HOD, Mrs. Mastor, and on her left, it's our Honorable MEC, MEC Fundile Kade. On MEC's left hand, we've got UDDG and Tilda, DDG for IOM. We also have Mr. Joseph. I can't. Yes, that name of his is too long for me. So that's Mr. Joseph, the Chief Director for IORSA. And we have Mr. Mtingi, who is the Director for Stakeholder Management. We have Dr. Beje, who is in the Office of the HOD. We have Tito from the Office of the MEC. We've got Umdima, our own. We've got Miss Sitali from Communications Directorate as well. Colleagues, I think we will allow a chance for members of the media to introduce themselves during that question and answer time. Please allow us to do that. Otherwise, we have to start now with the program. It's not too long. It's a very short one. As I step down now, colleagues, allow me to hand over to the Honorable MEC to take us through his statement of today, and then afterwards we can take questions and answer. Take questions from you, colleagues, and then management will answer. Over to you, MEC.
No, thanks. Good morning to you, Program Director. Good morning to the HOD, DDG, and the entire top management that is here. And also good morning to all the media houses that are invited to this important session today. One of the critical questions that we ought to answer is whether are we positioned enough to be able to achieve the noble targets that we have set for ourselves, and what are the obstacles that can make us unable at times or constrained to achieve whatever targets that we have set. So today we are bringing a statement, having made an analysis. One of those aspects is the safety of the area, the crime that is prevalent in the area, and having made a survey how then best can you assure the people of the province that you will be able to reposition the sector so that the targets are not falling in cracks on the basis of Nelson Mandela being a crime-prone zone. So basically, we are bringing some interventions as a sector in response to the demand of interventions that could be a requirement, not necessarily for us as a sector, but generally as government. Because remember, our strategic task is teaching and learning. And but within that, if that cannot happen on the basis of whatever obstacles that are there, you just needed to take a responsibility. You can't wait for other ministries to do that exercise for you. So this is a response. What I'm trying to say, DDG and the HOD, this is a response of the sector, having made a survey and analysis of the current environment of what is happening within the Nelson Mandela area and what should be the strategic way out for the sector to live to the expectations of the promises that we have made to the people of the province entirely, not to the people of the Nelson Mandela area only. Colleagues, the stakeholders and partners, ladies and gentlemen, today marks the second day after the opening of schools for the second term in 2024 academic year, as you know. Furthermore, this is the first term for the newly appointed SGB members in our schools. You would understand that from the 1st of March, the minister has made a declaration that all SGBs must undergo that particular process. And therefore, the task ahead of them is to stabilize the institutions of learning, but also to create policies that will be favorable for them to be able to manage the environment, but also look closely into what are these critical questions that the boards in the form of SGBs must answer as an entity legally to run schools at that particular level. So I'm saying this is one of the responsibilities and to ensure the proper governance of the schools as indicated in terms of the South African Schools Act. But critical for our SGBs is also the development of the school safety policies. As you would understand, the South African Schools Act on that particular section. The media briefing convened today is meant to account to the public on the interventions made by the education sector in ensuring that our schools are somehow spared from the acts of criminality, but some members of the community. Hence I said, whatever plans that you put in place, you must have made your proper analysis and locate schools within the communities where they are, and then take a particular decision on how best can you then make sure that you deliver to the expectations. We have noted with serious concerns, colleagues, the number of incidents which has been reported around the area of Nelson Mandela Metro that has got a negative impact in the teaching and learning in our schools. As we continue our engagement with the school principals today in Nelson Mandela and entirely in the province for the almost a month now, to reflect on the milestones achieved in the past academic year and to plan for the current one, we must reaffirm our support in dealing with the challenges that they face on day-to-day basis and executing the mandate so as to attain the desired outcomes. So we are again meeting the principals have said today at 10 o'clock, but how do you eliminate constraints and challenges that they are going to be confronted with, in the same vein that they have to manage the institutions of learning that they have been mandated to do. And again, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, as alluded above, the level of crime and substance abuse that schools experience are on the rise in the area and may be attributed to a wide range of issues. Learners are not safe on the roads, on their way to schools, and in and out of school premises, and on their way back at home. So you needed a bit of a security measure on how to respond to that analysis that you are bringing to yourselves. The department echoes that there is no place for violence and drugs abuse, sexual harassments, kidnapping, and other criminal acts in our schools, as this may pose a serious threat to the teaching and learning. Some of these incidents are directly linked to learner attendance and increased learner dropouts rate. Notable, effective, and safe schools tend to have a zero tolerance policy crafted by the SGBs. The department is encouraging schools to install surveillance cameras that monitors movement of learners and visitors around the school premises. Our main focus instill values and ethics of a caring society within schools and communities. We are then taking this matter to the SGB's back as prescribed in terms of the legislation. But also as a sector and a department, we'll have to table what then should be done beyond just policy formulation in terms of making sure that the SGBs themselves are not vulnerable in that particular instance, but also teachers and employees of government are not vulnerable in that particular instance, nor learners themselves and also the parents themselves. The planned interventions to enhance safety of learners in and out of schools in the Nelson Mandela is as follows. The department took a decision to prioritize Nelson Mandela Bay District in all interventions and programs and various awareness campaigns in the highlighted affected areas. For example, the department is going to roll out an awareness campaign on child trafficking, reaching 1,647 learners in the area, so that a campaign, so that no one claims not to be knowing what is actually happening, and no one claims not to be aware of the hotspot areas within the area, so as to avoid any unintended consequences that might arise out of that particular process. That's the first hurdle. The second hurdle is that the Molly Blackburn hosted gender equity campaign and reached a total of 61 learners. Furthermore, a total of 2,644 learners were reached through a vibrant campaign against the gender-based violence and femicide. And we have also experienced a bit of gender-based violence and femicide in the area. And you'd understand the attitude of government on the gender-based violence and femicide as one of the critical questions that generally the nation must be able to respond to. Because the instability in the families as units creates instability in any institutions from that particular angle. So once you have got a sluggish, unstable families, don't expect stability in schools. Don't expect stability in churches. Don't expect stability at work, because some of the values in the society are attributed on the growth paths of either collectively and individually, how the family unit has been able to mold those particular individuals. So that's why you are saying, as part of the ongoing interventions of the sector, we are bringing back the issue of reviving the family unit as a critical institution that must define what kind of citizenry are we building, so that we don't lose outside in terms of the discussion moving forward. All those interventions were conducted. In collaboration with the South African Police Services, community safety and school safety partners. The Department of Education does have a collaboration framework with SAPS, so that we can be able to deal with these elements of criminality. But there are 221 targeted schools in Motherwell, KwaZakhele, and Central that has been earmarked for the said joint intervention programs, and plans are in place to assist communities in ensuring that schools are safe around them. Colleagues, you would understand that HOD and DDGs and colleagues, that in terms of the allocation of duties, in terms of the safety and liaison department, they usually attached each and every individual policeman and woman in each and every ward in terms of the local government systems. So we are enhancing that, reactivating it back, but there are a consistent visit of the police in the institutions of learning within those townships, within those wards, as demarcated by the municipality, but also as demarcated by the South African Police Services, so that we can monitor very closely what is happening outside of the schools inside of the schools beyond our control as a sector as well, so that we can secure the safety of those individuals, poor kids that ought to undergo the schooling services. For quintile 4 and 5, colleagues, SGPs are able to put in place the security measures to prevent unauthorized access and ensure the safety of the learners and the staff. These include controlled entry systems, surveillance cameras, and security personnel. And the sharing of best practices amongst all the schools will be coordinated with the principals, meetings that have been organized for 2024 and 2025 financial year. On this one, we are indicating that in terms of the financial capacity for quintile 4 and 5, they may not that much of a problem because they can exercise whatever control measures that they can, because they do have the financial muscle and the capacity to do that. Our strategic focus is going to be quintile 1, 2, and 3 in this particular instance, so that you can be able to jack up systems and be able to deal decisively with the challenges that we have already alluded to. We are planning to provide human resource for them, colleagues, an extra human resource for them, in strengthening efforts to curb the incidence of crime and violence in our schools around this area. The department took a decision to strengthen the leadership and governance in our schools by issuing a promotional bulletin, volume 1 of 2024, with a closing date of the 15th of April 2024, and a clear management plan for filling of such positions. The vacant post for Nelson Mandela District has also been included on the matter. So in essence, beyond just managing it from a policy point of view, bring in resource personnel as part of ensuring that interventions begin to yield an outcome that we would want to get, but also bring in some elements of a security plan from a human resource plan point of view. The members of the media, in August 2022, the department approved the norms and standards for the provisioning of support staff in schools. This was an endeavor to provide proper assistance to educators for them to focus on teaching and learning, whilst other school functions are dealt with by the support staff. The department is planning to advertise support staff for 2024-2025 financial year, as I indicated on, in the entire province to improve the performance, and also a proposal has been forwarded and by the way, approved by the PCMT by now. We are going to appoint admin staff of 350 people. One is to take teachers out of the school management, the day-to-day school management aspects, so that they can focus on the curriculum management component where they excel. I'm not sure whether you are with me. So that you have got a targeted focus on what must be done by who, when, and why. You see? So that's why you are bringing now 350 people as part of the admission staff. Also, we are bringing assistant social workers, 24 of them, to deal with the psychosocial patterns that are beginning to emerge within the society. In as much as you are a department of education, not a department of social development, but whatever social illnesses that are there in the entire society and communities has got a bearing in the education sector. So you must diversify the functions of education and move away from being a department of teachers, right? Move away from being a department of teachers, but a department that encompasses all components that requires interventions. If you have got social ills, surely you are going to need social workers. If you have got a diverse society with people with disability, surely you are going to need therapists as part of enhancing the capacity of education as a sector. At a latest age probably at DDG and HOD, even if it is 10 years to come, surely you are going to need either a nurse or a doctor in schools looking into what is happening in the society. Because some of the challenges that these kids are having are not necessarily mental health issues. There are even physical health matters that are brought in by the challenges that they are confronted with on day-to-day basis. So I'm saying education as a catalyst, a pillar of social development, needed to diversify its own function and begin to appreciate that our success requires us approaching things a bit differently. Because we've already talked to the issue of crime, in particular in this area, we are going to bring security assistants, 1,000 of them, so that we can be able to reach out. In particular, we are targeting Nelson Mandela District and Sarah Batman. At a later stage, we'll have to look also at the Mthatha area or Tambo area, because also it has got this element, but not that much. But the key areas is this one and Sarah Batman or Tambo Mthatha area, and some components of Queenstown in one way or another. But in the main now, is this 1,000 going to focus around here, so that we take responsibility over the kids' lives and the safety of the educators and the employees that we have within the sector. Further to this, the district has been allocated 20 Grade R teaching posts in accordance with DBE commitments of absorbing qualified Grade R practitioners into the mainstream. This one is about consolidating the ECD sector. You would understand that we have taken ECD from social development now into education. And as you are always looking for us to produce results in grade 12, and I've been always consistent on this matter, there is nothing called grade 12 results. Grade 12 results are grade R results. You master the art and skill of the ECD foundation phase learning cohort, you are going to get 99% of grade 12s. The matter is closed. You continue to neglect the primary schooling system, you will forever have interventions in grade 12. To avoid having interventions in the next coming 5 years in grade 12, make sure that your foundation phase learning programs are tight. Make sure that your primary schooling system is tight. Make sure that the GEC that the minister has introduced is tight, and well observed. In essence, what I'm meaning, in grade 7, we need a general education certificate so that you assure these kids, as they progress to the FET band, they are at the level that the country is needing them. They are at the level that generally, in terms of the international standards, they are there. So hence I'm saying, this is part of the broader intervention strategy that the department is talking about, bringing stability in the ECD and also bringing integration and consolidation of the ECD into the mainstream. The effective functioning of the circuits, districts, and head office is also a critical component for us for the inclusion of some of the key strategic posts in those areas, so that we can be able to get whatever interventions and outcomes that we have. Critically for us, colleagues, the HOD and these DTGs have got a special focus on whether the circuit management is working. I'm not sure, DTG, whether must I further explain this. Look, you can convene all these meetings that are going to come here that are starting at 10 o'clock. If those principals are not whipped by circuit managers, you are going to call them even tomorrow. So you need a special focus on the circuit management system. Whether is there any accountability by each and every circuit manager? What is the performance of your school? And why are they performing where they are performing? What interventions have you done to ensure that your school as a circuit manager moves out of the danger zone that you are saying they are at? So basically, it's about a reintroduction of accountability within the ecosystem of management, from a teacher to the MEC, from the HOD down to the teacher and also to a person that is cleaning in the department, so that all of us can account for whatever that is happening at that particular level. So that's why I'm saying this element of circuit management that is closer to schools, closer to the principal's management ethics, must be injected and be able to respond to that. The priority has been given to our schools in the Nelson Mandela Bay by also allocating 262 security assistant posts within that 1,000, with each school receiving 2 guards for the year for 2024 through expanded public works program. This is an interim human resource strategy to provide a safe learning environment for the learners and educators in the hotspot areas. So in essence, you'll be having a guard in the morning and a guard in the evening. Because you'd understand also most that our teachers are the ones that are sleeping in schools, especially the ones that are at high schools. So continuously allowing them to sleep at schools whilst you don't have security guards is a risk on its own. So we are responding to that by bringing that element. Ladies and gentlemen, again, one pillar in the main task is the education systems transformation plan that we have already adopted in 2019, but we just needed a bit of reviving it to bring in an element of urgency, especially on the inclusive education. That program of Bantu Ngabetu campaign has to be realized by facilitating the inclusion of the vulnerable learners and the reduction of barriers to the learning through the targeted support structures and the mechanisms that will improve the intervention of learners in the education system. During 2023-2024 financial year, the department allocated 84 posts to the district, circuit offices and special schools. In addition, the department appointed 5 special support team members consisting of the following: 3 therapists, 1 psychologist, and 1 senior education specialist. This explains what I have already to the sustainability of education must be brought in, hence that particular intervention. The team is mandated to a rollout and a fast tracking of the implementation of the White Paper 6 within the Nelson Mandela part. Also, the department created 2,420 temporal employments for the youth and unemployment individuals through the EPWP program and the Presidential Youth Employment Initiatives whilst it was there. So we are going to deploy 2,420 department. You are able to stabilize the communities so that your schools are stabilized as an ultimate benefit to that particular area. The safety of learners in our special schools is taken very seriously, hence the appointment of 90 security personnel from the 1st of April 2023 and placed in our special schools in the whole province. So we have appointed already 90 security personnel from the 1st of April. Now we are bringing another ones so that you also respond to that cry that you were seeing, for example, in the Ikwezi Lokusa, as part of the problems that we're experiencing. The creation of employment opportunities is one of the strategies to keep the youth occupied with constructive projects or acts rather than committing crimes. Most importantly, most importantly, be given the platform to contribute positively. Colleagues, in terms of the infrastructure provisioning, because that's another area, we as the sixth administration has made a significant process in improving education facilities in the province, including the construction of schools, rehabilitating and maintenance of the existing ones. We are steadfast in transforming education landscape for the generations to come by creating centers of excellence for our learners, for them to excel in their own lives. The initial allocation for school infrastructure project in 2023-2024 financial year was 1.8 billion rands, funded mainly from the education infrastructure grant. And to a lesser extent, the early childhood development grant and the expanded works programs, these funds has been designated to the following strategic areas within our school infrastructure: to upgrade and put additions of 53% in terms of the allocation for the existing infrastructure, the maintenance and repairs at 21% in terms of the budget that we have already allocated, rehabilitation and renovation of refurbishment of schools, new infrastructure assets, and also the allocated infrastructure projects that are there. Most of those projects in the annual budget focus in existing schools, evident by the substantial budget allocation and upgrades, which typically includes maintaining the existing facility. During the 2023 adjustment budget, the conditional grants decreased due to fiscal changes faced by the government generally. Notable, the early childhood development grant was reduced by 204 million, and the IEG was reduced by 1.6 billion generally in terms of that space. But despite those fiscal challenges, the department continues to make a steady progress in the developing of school infrastructure. The focus is on the investment in schools, with almost 1,000 schools successfully completed since 2019 financial year to date. And these were funded through the IAG and accelerated ACID. Since 2021, a concerted effort has been made and engaged education stakeholders as a showcase of the delivery through the official handover of the completed school. On this one, we are just updating you that from 2019 to date, we have built 100 schools. We have built 100 schools, and a record that I don't think could be easily met in the recent times to come, precisely because of the changes in terms of the fiscal constraints that the country is going to be faced with and currently is faced with. So, in essence, we have been able to hit the target HOD. And I think we just needed to maintain that momentum, eradicate dilapidated schools in the province, close the matter of mud schools quicker, finalize the 1,500 abolition schools that were not appropriate. By now, I said last time, in a space of 8 months, we'll be having closed the issue of the 1,500 abolition schools that have got a problem. So by now, I think we are just close to that and close that matter. In terms of the Nelson Mandela, they have benefited the following colleagues, because that's where you are going to be interested. in terms of and provision of 56 infrastructure projects, which included 8 new replacement schools. So in essence here, we have provided almost 56 infrastructure projects in Nelson Mandela alone, and 8 new replacement schools in Nelson Mandela alone. Ezo skolo ke that we are talking about is James Dulula at 43.6 million, Jubilee Park Primary School at 91.8 million, Fesane Senior Primary School at 86.9 million, Mjulana Primary School at 12.2 million, Kululeko Primary School value at 94.2, Nomatamsanga Primary School at 11.5, Noninzi Luzipo at 63.6 million, Sunshine Special School at 98.9 million. So that's a reflection of how we have been able to close up the issue of the Nelson Mandela, trying to respond to a number of cries in relation to the infrastructure matters. As part of the security plan, the fencing remains one of the critical factors of our school infrastructure development program to safeguard our schools, the targets of criminals, as the department continues to pump the required resources of schools for the enhancement of the teaching and learning, inclusive of food items for school nutrition programs, criminals and other ideas. To mitigate this act, the 41 fencing projects have been completed in Nelson Mandela. So in essence, we have been able to fence 41 schools. You will remember that earlier on last year, we said we wanted to fence 120 schools in the province. And out of that 120 schools, 41 was in Nelson Mandela alone. So we have achieved our own target. A total of 14 projects were completed during the current financial year, and from 1st of April to 2023, which included the provisioning of 6,800 meters of security fencing in 12 schools. Ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude by saying this is the plan that we are bringing to the people of Nelson Mandela, but equally, what is going to be critical of us is on how do we appreciate the effort that is being done by educators. On the 19th of April, we are awarding the best performing schools in the province. Last year we did, surprisingly, people thought that it wouldn't happen, but it happened. We gave them 5 cars, new cars, the best performing schools in the province. This year, we are going to give 6 instead of 5. The reason is, last year we didn't include the special schools category into the best performing schools system. And I have taken a view that that was a blunder and a serious mistake that we owe to the disability sector an apology, a public apology on that. On the 19th of April, we'll be giving also them their own car, albeit the fact that we were giving them 10 buses last month for them to do the jobs that is expected of them. But this one is a part of encouraging the educators to do the best within their ambit of ensuring that we live to the expectations of the 85% target that the people of the province has mandated us to do. In the meeting that we are going to at 10 o'clock, that meeting is solely to deal with how best our strategy are responding to the desired target of 85%. And you are not going to get that 85% at the end of the year. That 85%, we must get it now, first quarter. And if we don't get it in the first quarter, we must be able to know what are the reasons that made us not to be able to get it. And what then becomes our intervention for the second quarter and the third quarter. How are we going to do that, Finn? This team that I'm going with here, they are going to present the analysis of the results of last year. They are going to present each and every school's performance, each and every individual learner in the province. Why in this particular school we have got levels 1? What are the reasons? How do you take these levels 1s into level 3 at least in this particular subject? What are the implications of allowing them to be massive between level 1 and level 2 in terms of the performance rate of individual learners? Before you talk performance of schools, you must talk performance of individual learners. Why this learner consistently from grade 10, grade 11 has never achieved level 4 in this particular subject? Why? Because you are not going to get a miracle of a learner getting level 7 in grade 12, whilst in actual fact in grade 10 and grade 11, he has never get even level 2 or level 3 in that particular subject. So that analysis, consistently bridging the gap, learning from the experience, so that you can be able to say, maybe the issue here is not a learner. The issue might be on the teachers themselves in this particular subject. What are your interventions on the teachers' capacity building programs? As we speak now, Mr. Jack has convened a workshop here in Port Elizabeth, in Nelson Mandela, taking educators on a program of development. As we speak, they are concluding it tomorrow. They started yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. So that holistically, you look at the performance of learners, you look at the expertise of educators, look at the systems management of the department as well, and say, is this achievable or not? If not, what is it that MEC we must do beyond the call? What is it? So I'm saying, you can't consistently and continuously having a battalion of learners that have never passed any grade, by the way. Ufuna uthini MEC? Ndifuna ukuthi lo muntu ku grade 12 but zange wapasa nayiphi na grade. Ngaba bantu be intervention into bana because uneminyaka emibini kule phase ipolice ithi go kule game yesithathu makathini maka progress. So progressed learners are a threat in the system because he or she has never passed any grade this one. So thinking that naturally and just automatically can just pass grade 12 is a miracle. So you needed a consistent focus on these ones and say, okay, zeziphi as subjects zibetha lo mntana. Zimbetha kweyiphi itopic ntima. Ingaba iproblem ekho kulo tishala. Lo tishala lo wenza le social science, ingaba unayo na i-geography and history for example. Kungathi kanti ngutishala we-geography lo, abantwana bapasa i-geography bayiferishe i-history because i-crisis ikutishala ayikho sebantwaneni. So I'm saying those are lessons that we must as a system learn from and begin to say, how do you rescue these kids out of this crisis so that the province continue to be a beacon of hope in the country. Lastly, this is a maths and science province. The unfortunate part of it is that we fail sometime to talk about that. The results of grade 12 are quite very heavy and difficult for this province, precisely because of the decision we have taken some time ago, that of being a province that predominantly does maths and science. We are number one in the country on this one. But that decision, you don't need to regret on the basis of difficulty that you are confronted with. Because the human resource strategy of the country depends on maths and science. So, you need an education system that is not priding itself on a number of kids that pass or fail, but an education system that prides in terms of the strategic vision of the country. Right? You have got 100% pass, but that 100% pass of yours have got nothing to do with the crisis that we're confronted with. Because the choice of your subjects does not respond to the crisis outside there. Yes, you have passed 100%, but the problem is this 100% responding to the crisis of unemployment and joblessness that we have outside there? And hence I'm saying, that decision of taking maths and science as a gateway subject in the province, and almost 65% of learners are doing maths and science in the province, is the only way to go, and it's not going to be changed. Even if we can decline in terms of pass rate in the next coming years, that decision must stand as it is, because for us to answer one question, who are building roads for us here, depends on the number of kids doing maths and science. If you are saying you need to develop Nelson Mandela to be a smart city, you are not going to develop Nelson Mandela as a smart city using maths lit and life orientation. If you are saying Ocean's economy is a gateway internationally in the main decade, you are not going to respond to that without maths and science. If you are saying, let's find kids now doing aviation studies in our universities because there is a threat of us having foreigners being pilots in the country. Being pilots in the country. You are not going to be able to do that without that maths and science. So I'm saying, the issue here, whilst you are dealing with the percentages of pass and failures, but the issue is, do you understand what you are doing? Do you understand what you are doing? Do you understand in the next coming 10 years what is likely to happen if you don't take a decision now? So I'm saying, colleagues, that's where we are, and that's where we're going to go with, and that's where we think the province is going to take a direction. Even post the elections, our elections are not a threat to us. What is a threat is the stability of the system, and whether are we servicing the people properly and correctly in terms of the future of the province moving forward. Otherwise, my apologies for having taken a bit of your time. I just wanted to explain so that we minimize number of questions, Tima. Thank you so much.
Thank you, MEC, for such a powerful message to all of us. I think it is clear, colleagues, that education is now on a new pedestal to all of us. Colleagues, let me allow you time to ask questions. As you ask questions, you will introduce yourself, and the media house that you're coming from, pose a question. Okay, that's number one. Number two, number three. Okay, any other hand? Number four. Number five. All right. Any other hand, police? We might not have a second round because of time. Five questions. Okay, shoot.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good morning, MEC. Good morning, everyone. And you as well. Just two questions, MEC, that I have for you. First question is, could you please tell us how many schools that have been targeted in the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro since the beginning of the year? And two, you mentioned all of these security personnel, access control system, and surveillance cameras. How much all of these will cost the department? If you can also tell us on that. And just to add on, the question of surveillance cameras, where are those going to be monitored? Yes, thank you. That's all.
Okay, thank you so much.
Morning everyone, my name is Metro from Briefiing. MPC, talking about building new schools, is any plan in place of building another school for autism? Because there's only one school here in Nelson Mandela Metro. Parents are complaining that that school is not able to cater all the kids.
Right, thank you so much.
Here from Netwerk 24 News and Burger. I just want to check from your analysis, what seems to be the hotspots, or where seems to be the hotspots in the Nelson Mandela Bay, especially relating to crime, and what type of crime? I know we've heard about robberies, armed robberies on school personnel, but what specific crime is it that's worrying you? And if you can just explain to me the 1,000 security personnel that's going to be allocated especially to Nelson Mandela Bay and Sarah Bartman, do they include the 2 guards for each school, or is that a separate deployment? And then, am I understanding correctly that it's also going to go down to the SGBs to create a safety policy? And what exactly are you expecting those policies to be? Alright. Just one.
I'm Briefiing, sorry, from Nelson FM. I just want, if you, MEC, can just touch base on the time frame. When are they going to be appointed, those 1,000 security officers? Also, do you think you spoke of attaching individual policemen in each and every ward instead of reviving that is demarcated by the police service? So I just want to check if you think that will materialize in schools, given the fact that there's still a complaint, especially when it comes to the shortage of vehicles that are patrolling in our areas. Also on the fencing of schools, are there any schools, maybe the Nelson Mandela Bay, that you think this year, in terms of figures, are going to be prioritized?
Great.
Besides the stats and the beautiful speech that I just made, on this safety schools campaign that we just embarked upon, are you going to maybe introduce law enforcement agencies?
Okay, are you done? All right. Thank you, colleagues, for your questions. I've got this panel. Where's Mr. Joseph? He mustn't leave now. I've got all the managers here, to try and respond, but I'll hand over to MEC just to give us guidance on how we want to go about responding.
No, let me take the lighter one. The heavy one, I will leave it to the HOT and DDG and the top management. Let me take the lighter one from a policy point of view. Let me take the last one, the law enforcement. We remember by law, once parents send kids to us, the parenthood kicks in as education. Once a kid enters the gate of a school, the parenthood changes in terms of the South African Schools Act. The custodianship changes into us. It's no longer you being a parent, it's me now who then becomes a parent in terms of law. So that's why we were then saying, look, we have already have the safe policy with the Department of Safety and Liaison. But of course, there are shortcomings and challenges in terms of human resource provisioning, even in the Department of Safety and Liaison, and other challenges. If you were listening to the SAFM radio last night on the discussion over the state of the police station and the human resource provisioning from that particular department and ministry. But that does not suggest that you don't have a responsibility and a constitutional mandate for the safety of the citizens and safety of the kids. We were of the discussion with the MEC for safety in the main, that how do we draw lessons from the already existing collaboration framework that we have in terms of providing the law enforcement agencies into the space. That's one. But two, how do you accelerate a bit of a speedy response when cases of this particular nature are being taken into the law enforcement agencies? That's why we're saying, as part of the broader strategy of Safe of Schools, we will end up having some surveillance systems. For example, your alert buttons that are linked to the police stations, so that whilst you are fencing schools on the other side, but also you alert the law enforcement agencies in terms of responding to the crisis that is already there. So I'm saying it's an ongoing, thorough discussion that is already on the table between ourselves and the Department of Safety and Liaison. But critically to that will be how the justice cluster is going to reposition itself, because some of the cases might end up going to court in one way or another. That is unavoidable. So it's an ongoing kind of a discussion that I think needed a bit of checking up systems, have a thorough ongoing plan that is going to deal with the process as unfolding. Critically to that will be also, in my view, in terms of the law enforcement agencies, probably tightening up our own policies as education as well. Because, for example, if you talk about gender-based violence between learners, because our policies as a set, orientation kind of, so you needed to a bit be closing up that particular gap. But in terms of renewal of the policies, the minister have already started that. So it's a matter that is already there. But colleagues, in terms of the safety schools policy, you'll check up on that one. But again, in terms of the SAPS and the security and the time frame and also the allocation of the police, yes, of course, already they are allocated the per ward, police, as we speak, from a local government's point of view. Whether are they visible or not, that's another discussion. But from a framework's point of view, they are already allocated per ward. That's why in terms of their policy framework, they are linked to schools in terms of the safe policy in our collaboration framework. All schools are linked to police stations, which then talks to the ward system that I'm talking about, so that you can be able to make sure that there is safe in terms of a school. Lastly, for me, the Premier has actually given an instruction to us to make sure that we build autism schools in the province. We have dealt with the one in Edinburgh. Maryvale, yes, Maryvale. We do have Maryvale wing on that, not the whole school. We do have the one in Port St. John's. We do the one that was supposed to have been completed last year in East London. But what is critical on this one is to make sure that you resource them as well, change the already existing infrastructure that you currently have, so that it can meet the required standards that are going to be needed in the autism space. The research is indicating that in the province now, in fact in the country generally, I don't know what is it that informs it, Chris, but there is a much percentage of parents giving birth to autism kids. Maybe health could answer that question, what are the reasons? But I'm saying The sooner as education respond to that indication that there are more autism kids being given birth to now, it means you can't just build a school now on the basis that Mtima and his friends are toying outside there. You needed an analysis of each and every community from a health point of view. What are the prevalent chronic diseases that are there? What is the likelihood of you having to build a particular infrastructure for as a response to what is on the research and studies that you are going to engage on? Remember, the president has already made a proclamation on sign language and the disability sector. So you just have no option but no excuses, because proclamation has already been made now by the president that sign language is one of the critical languages that must be put in place, but also the disability sector in terms of the white paper 6 must also be part of the agenda of the national government. So I'm saying this issue of the autism school is a matter that is needed to be taken into cognizance. But lastly for me, so that I can hand over to the HOD, we've already taken a decision, colleagues, very much unpopular and very much unfair to some, but extremely good for others. That you can't allow citizens of the province to pay heavily on rare skills, rare syndromes in the society. For example, few of you can be able to take your kid to Cape Recife. Why? Because of cost. Now, but the Cape Recife is a public school. Now, this top management has taken a decision to say, mitigate on this. Drop that fee by taking responsibility of paying on behalf of those that wants to go there. If, for example, the kid, they're worth 56,000 per year, take 1,000 per month, for example. In essence, it means you are dropping that 56,000 by 12,000. So that when ufuna ukusumntana wakho pha iyehle, mna ndithathe i-12,000 nale top management on your behalf. Awuthi mabadrop iprice yabo, ba-right iprice yabo bahlala injalo, but as government subsidize them ngale 12,000 rand, so that those parents who wants to get their kids there have got a benefit of access, because one of the major crises that the country is going to be confronted with very soon, education is becoming expensive. That's why very soon, if the Ministry of Higher Education is not careful, is going to have dropouts very soon. Very soon, don't say I didn't warn you. It's going to have dropouts because NSFAS must either be fixed or taken out. You can't have problems of NSFAS since then and even today's date. They don't pay at the time required to pay. Now they are undergoing investigations. When are you paying for the kids enrolled in February? Because those kids that are coming from the quintile 1, 2, 3 families are going to drop out if you allow NSFAS to pay as it pleases. From now, from February to April, usurvive njani la mntana? Lowa ebexhomekeke ku-school nutrition program kwa-basic education. Lowa ebexhomekeke kwi-scholar transport kwa-basic education. Lowa ebexhomekeke kwi-350 yakowabo kuze esikolweni. Now, Nelson Mandela University now. NSFAS have not paid. So, you are then creating a gap year accidentally for kids. Not because bafuna uhlala, but because the system is forcing them to get out of the system in education. So I'm then saying these are sensitive matters which needed a leadership that is able to hold the bull by its own horns. Hence I'm saying beyond basic education, how do you track these kids, Master? Bapasile ngoku uthi, are they accessing higher education or not? If yes, what is it that is happening? And how do you ensure that there is stability at that particular level? Because task yako is to build a skilled, productive nation here as education sector broadly. So bendisithi ke mna ndithathe ezi zilula ndiziyekele kuni ezi zinzima DDG and the HOD.
Thanks, MEC. Good morning, colleagues. Allow me just to ask Mr. Mchida to respond on the fencing. How many schools will be fenced in Nelson Mandela Bay? And also the cost that we allocated for the program. And the last part that I want him to respond on is the SGB and the safety policies. Then I will close the matter on all other related matters, and I will put it in perspective. Mr. Mchida.
Okay. No, thank you so much. Perhaps just on a few issues that have been raised. I first of all want just to touch on the provision of services for autistic learners. That I think that the MEC has covered it, but what I just want to impress upon is the fact that it's not so much of the building that is important. The issue is on the services that you are actually providing inside that building. So by way of ensuring that we improve the provision of support to autistic learners, the training and continuous training of educators and personnel in our schools becomes very key. Because you may build the school, but if you do not have personnel that is actually ready to provide the necessary service, then it might be that you are not addressing the issue. So that was just by the way. And then on the issue of crime, I think there was a specific question about attachment of police in each schools. You would be aware that this whole issue of schools becoming infested with this level of crime started towards the end of last year. And whereas Gqeberha in particular has always been known of certain notorious or areas that are notorious with crime, like your northern areas. But this particular one seems to be attacking just all the schools in all the areas of Gqeberha, including a human store. So we already started working very closely, as we have been doing, because we had programs of school safety that we are running collaboratively with SAPS and together with safety. So there is already deployment of safety personnel that are deployed, as the MEC was saying, in terms of the wards, but I think there is additional personnel that is being deployed over and above what the department now is actually providing out of our own coffers. Then on fencing, we have a dedicated program to ensure that as part of providing security in our schools, we do fencing in our schools. Now, because you know that you always have constraint of resources, you are limited, you are unable to provide as much as the need is outside there. What we did last year, and which is what we are continuing with even this year, is that in each district, we identify the most hot spot areas and try to identify a number of schools. For instance, we are identifying 10 schools in each area. It's not because we think that only 10 schools in a district are in need, but it's because of the limit of funding. And then you provide fencing in those schools. Now, even for this year, because the specific question is how many, a minimum of 10, we could go beyond that 10 if funds permit, but a minimum of 10 is actually going to be identified for provision of the palisade fencing. I think that HOD and MEC, those were the few areas where, and in fact, I think there was also, Umtimba is reminding me, a question on the funds that are allocated. For provision of this security in our schools, we are estimating a budget of plus minus 59 million for the entire province. We shall have to work out how much specifically we shall be utilizing for this area of Nelson Mandela. So I think that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mchida. Can I just add on the finances? Except the 59 million, the figure that has been given from the province, we have other programs as well. For example, we are having a life skills grant. Part of the life skills grant is also earmarked to deal with safety issues, especially in terms of training, capacitating our schools and our learners. So that is a part of it. Then also we are allocating norms and standard funds to our schools. And we want to say this year, no school can complain. It will be 100% funded. And this is how we are encouraging our schools. At some of our schools, when you enter the school, you will see there's a security officer standing. You will see also that the school will say this school is secured and it's linked to Atlas, it is linked to this company. So we are also encouraging our schools, from your norms and standard funding, also put in additional security at your school. So we're encouraging that. We also, through our EPWP program, in terms of making security patrollers available, we have put about 6 million aside. So we're using different types of funds to assist with this program. Also to indicate, we've got plus minus 5,400 schools in the province. Yes, we are here because we are prioritizing Nelson Mandela Bay. But since last year, we started with the program of EPWP, where we have earmarked the northern areas. When we talk about the northern areas, it is your township areas and your former colored areas. So this is where we picked up really where the crime is more intense than in the other areas. But we're not saying that crimes are not taking place in the other areas, but we're calling it the so-called hotspot areas. And the reason why we're calling it the hotspot areas, because last year some of our educators could not enter the school premises, or whilst they were on the school premises, they were exposed to these levels of crimes. What levels of crimes? Break-ins, robbery that has taken place at a school level, lives were threatened at a school level. But as the Department of Education, I want to remind us of something very important, that education is a societal matter. Crime and violence is not the core business of the Department of Education, but it's teaching and learning. But whilst our MEC is explaining to us, we are saying that teaching and learning cannot take place if the environment is not conducive. Hence all these programs that we are having as education. What we are also doing, we have Mr. Ndingi here, which we are calling stakeholder mobilization. And with stakeholder mobilization, already the Metro started a relationship with the municipality, where the municipality indicated we will put up cameras close to your schools to monitor crime. So that is part of the collaboration, part of the initiative from the Metro. Focus on our SGBs. The role of the SGBs, because they are managing the funds that we are decentralizing to schools, to see how they can best protect the schools. How can they put a best policy in place? This is where your community is coming in. This is where your parents are coming in. Because it is the prerogative of the community around the school to keep the school safe. Yes, we are implementing all these measures, but education is a societal matter, and our core business is teaching and learning. Just in terms of how many, I think Nelson Mandela, although we initially said 10 schools, Mr. Mchida, we extended it to 130 schools because of the seriousness of this matter. I don't want us to be confused about two issues. One, EPWP. where we're already moving with that one. The next one that MEC is saying, and it's the question that was here about the 1,000 people that we want to employ, that is for the province. Yes, we're coming here to say, Nelson Mandela, there is a crisis, but we need to service all our schools in the province. So that 1,000 is for the rest of the province. That 350 is for the rest of the province. We cannot deny and say there's no challenge in the resources across the province. I wanted to touch on that one. I think Mr. Mchida has touched on it. And just in closing, the MEC highlighted inclusive education. We would like our schools become centers of inclusivity. And we are busy working towards that. MEC last year declared in his policy speech, I want 28 therapists and psychologists appointed. MEC can safely say, tick, I have done it. Last year, for the first time, the Department of Education was given the opportunity to advertise since 2018, 505 posts. We have done it, and we're almost concluding on that successfully. I just want to say, if you've listened to MEC closely, he says approximately close to 90 non-teaching support staff was appointed in the special schools here in Nelson Mandela Bay. So yes, as the Department of Education, with limited resources, with a shrinking fiscus in the province, I would like to believe that we are doing well in terms of managing our resources and supporting our schools in the province. I thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, my panel colleagues. I think we're done now, but we'll allow MEC. Are you fine now?
No, bendizawuthi Mchida, let's allow them to go and start that meeting.
Yeah.
And I take the one-on-one with them. I can do that. But let that meeting start. Let that meeting start. Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
Masenzeni kanjalo. Sizawufika depend 5 minutes. Depend 5 minutes.
Maybe that's, yeah. All right, Tima. Okay. Mr. Mtima, over to you. Please handle this session.